My name is Celestine Harper, and I'm 67 years old. 6 months ago, I stood in my living room and told my only daughter something I never thought I'd have to say. If you marry him, you're doing it without me. I won't be at the wedding. I won't congratulate you. I won't pretend to be happy about this. You're making a choice, and I'm making mine. My daughter Imani stared at me with tears streaming down her face. She was 32 years old, a grown woman, but in that moment, she looked like the little girl who used to climb into my lap when she was sad. "Mama, please," Imani begged. "Please don't do this. He's the man I love. Why can't you just be happy for me?" "Because he's destroying you," I said quietly. "And I won't stand by and watch it happen. I won't smile and celebrate while you throw your life away for a man who doesn't deserve you." "You don't even know him," Imani shouted. "You've never given him a chance. You decided you hated him before you even met him." "I know enough," I said. "I know that since you met him 2 years ago, you've lost your job, lost your apartment, and lost yourself. I know that you're not the same person anymore. I know that every time I see you, you look more tired, more stressed, more broken. And I know that when I try to talk to you about it, you defend him and make excuses." "He's going through a hard time," Imani said, her voice cracking. "He needs me. I can't abandon him when things are difficult." "But he can let you sacrifice everything for him," I asked. "Imani, you gave up your nursing career to support his business ventures that never go anywhere. You sold your car to pay his debts. You moved in with him even though he'd just gotten out of a relationship with someone else. Baby, this isn't love. This is you being used." "You're wrong," Imani said, but her voice was weak. "You don't understand our relationship." "Then help me understand," I said. "Explain to me why a man who claims to love you has never once put your needs first. Explain to me why you're always the one giving and he's always the one taking. Explain to me why you look so unhappy." Imani was quiet for a long moment. Then she lifted her chin and looked at me with determination. "I'm marrying him, Mama, with or without your blessing. He proposed last night and I said yes. The wedding is in 3 months." My heart broke. I'd raised this girl by myself after her father died when she was 5 years old. I'd worked 2 jobs to put her through college. I taught her to be strong, to be independent, to know her worth. And now she was throwing it all away for a man who treated her like she was worthless. "Then I guess you've made your choice," I said, my voice steady even though I was dying inside. "You're choosing him over me, over yourself, over everything I taught you." "Don't make me choose," Imani cried. "Why does it have to be a choice?" "Because I can't watch you destroy yourself," I said. "I can't pretend everything is fine when it's not. I can't smile at a wedding that I know is a mistake. Imani, I love you more than anything in this world, but I love you too much to support something that's hurting you. So if you're going to marry him, you're doing it without me." "Fine," Imani shouted. "If that's how you feel, then don't come. I don't need you there anyway." She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. But before she left, she turned back to me with tears pouring down her face. "You're supposed to support me no matter what," Imani said. "That's what mothers do, but I guess I was wrong about you. I guess your love is conditional after all." Then she was gone. The door slammed behind her, and I stood alone in my living room, wondering if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. But here's what I need you to understand. That confrontation wasn't the beginning of this story. It was the result of 2 years of watching my daughter slip away from me, controlled by a man who was slowly destroying everything good in her life. And the decision I made that day, to choose peace over watching my daughter hurt herself, was the hardest decision I've ever made. Let me take you back to where this all started. Let me tell you about the man my daughter chose. Let me tell you why I had to make the choice I made. And then you can decide if I was wrong. Before we dive into this powerful story about a mother's love, tough choices, and knowing when to let go, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button because this story is going to take you on an emotional journey. Smash that like button and turn on notifications bell so you don't miss what happens next. And drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. Are you in the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Jamaica, Trinidad, Australia? Let me know who's here with me. Now let's go back to where it all began. 2 years before that terrible confrontation, my daughter was living her best life. Imani was 30 years old, working as a pediatric nurse at a children's hospital. She had her own apartment that she'd worked hard to afford. She had friends, hobbies, dreams. She was happy and independent. I was so proud of her. After her father died when she was just 5 years old, I'd raised her alone. It hadn't been easy. I'd worked as a teacher during the day and cleaned offices at night to make ends meet. But I'd made sure Imani had everything she needed. I'd made sure she went to college. I'd made sure she knew she could do anything she set her mind to. And she'd done it. She'd become a nurse, a good one. She loved taking care of sick children. She was kind and patient and dedicated to her work. Then one day, Imani called me, and I could hear the excitement in her voice. "Mama, I met someone," she said. I was happy for her. Imani had dated before, but nothing serious. She'd always been focused on her career. But now she was 30, and I knew she wanted to find someone to build a life with. "Tell me about him," I said. "His name is Rashon," Imani said. "He's 35, he's an entrepreneur, he's starting his own business. Mama, he's so ambitious and driven. He has all these big plans. And he's so charming and confident. I've never met anyone like him." "How did you meet?" I asked. "At a coffee shop," Imani said. "I was there studying for my nursing certification exam, and he sat down at the table next to me. He started a conversation, and we ended up talking for 3 hours. Mama, it felt like fate, like we were meant to meet." "That's wonderful, baby," I said. "When do I get to meet him?" "Soon," Imani promised. "I want to make sure it's serious first, but Mama, I have a good feeling about this one." Over the next few weeks, Imani talked about Rashon constantly. He took her to nice restaurants. He bought her flowers. He told her she was beautiful and special. He talked about their future together, the house they'd buy, the family they'd have, the life they'd build. It all sounded perfect, too perfect. 3 months after they started dating, Imani brought Rashon to meet me. I'd made Sunday dinner, fried chicken, collard greens, mac and cheese, cornbread, all of Imani's favorite foods. When they arrived, I opened the door and got my first look at the man my daughter was so excited about. Rashon was tall and handsome, I'll give him that. He wore expensive clothes, designer jeans, a nice leather jacket, gold jewelry. He had a smooth way of talking, like he'd practiced every word. "Mrs. Harper, it's such an honor to meet you," Rashon said, flashing a perfect smile. "Imani talks about you all the time. She says you're the strongest woman she knows." "Nice to meet you too," I said, shaking his hand. His grip was firm, almost too firm, like he was trying to prove something. We sat down to dinner, and Rashon dominated the conversation. He talked about his business ideas. He was planning to start a real estate investment company. He talked about his goals. He was going to be a millionaire by 40. He talked about how lucky he was to have found Imani. She was exactly the kind of woman he needed by his side. I noticed how he said it, the kind of woman he needed, not the woman he loved, not the woman who made him happy, the woman he needed. I also noticed other things. The way he interrupted Imani when she tried to speak. The way he made jokes at her expense and then told her she was too sensitive when she didn't laugh. The way he talked about his ex-girlfriend in front of Imani, comparing them. "My ex was beautiful, but she was high maintenance," Rashon said, laughing. "Imani's different. She's low maintenance. She doesn't need expensive things to be happy. That's what I love about her." I saw Imani's face fall slightly at being called low maintenance, but she quickly covered it with a smile. After dinner, Rashon excused himself to take a phone call. As soon as he left the room, I turned to Imani. "Baby, can I ask you something?" I said quietly. "What, Mama?" Imani asked, smiling. She was so happy, so hopeful. "Are you sure about this man?" I asked. "Something about him doesn't feel right to me." Imani's smile faded. "Mama, please don't start. I knew you'd find something wrong with him." "I'm not trying to find something wrong," I said. "I'm just paying attention. The way he talks to you, the way he talks about you, it doesn't sit right with me." "He's confident, that's all," Imani said defensively. He knows what he wants. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a difference between confidence and arrogance, I said. And there's a difference between knowing what you want and treating people like they're objects to help you get it. You don't even know him, Imani said, her voice rising. You've spent 2 hours with him and you're already judging him. Mama, I thought you'd be happy for me. I am happy if you're happy, I said. But Imani, I've lived a lot longer than you. I've seen a lot of different kinds of people. And I'm telling you, something about this man worries me. Well, you don't have to worry, Imani said coldly. I'm a grown woman. I can make my own decisions about who I date. Rashon came back into the room before I could respond. He wrapped his arm around Imani's waist possessively. Ready to go, babe? He asked. Yeah, Imani said. She gave me a quick hug. Thanks for dinner, Mama. They left, and I stood at the window watching them drive away. I had a terrible feeling in my stomach, a feeling that I'd just met the man who was going to break my daughter's heart. I was right, but it was so much worse than I ever imagined. 6 months after I met Rashon, Imani started changing. At first, the changes were small. She canceled our usual Sunday dinners a few times because Rashon had other plans for them. She stopped calling me as often. When we did talk, she seemed distracted, always rushing to get off the phone. But then the changes got bigger and scarier. One day, Imani called me from work. She was crying. Mama, I need to talk to you, she said. What's wrong, baby? I asked, immediately worried. I got in trouble at work, Imani said. I've been late a lot lately, and my supervisor gave me a written warning. She said if it happens again, I could lose my job. Why have you been late? I asked. There was a pause. Rashon's car broke down a few weeks ago. He's been using mine to get to his business meetings, so sometimes he doesn't get back in time for me to get to work on time. My heart sank. Imani, why is he using your car when you need it for work? Can't he take Uber or borrow someone else's car? He needs a car for his business, Imani said. And Uber is expensive. Mama, it's temporary. He's about to close a big deal and then he'll be able to afford his own car again. Again, I repeated. Does he not have money to fix his car? Another pause. He's having some cash flow problems right now, but it's normal for new businesses. He says all entrepreneurs go through this. Once this deal closes, everything will be fine. Imani, how long has his car been broken? I asked. A few weeks, she said quietly. And in those few weeks, you've been late to work so often that you got written up, I said. Baby, your job is important. You worked hard to become a nurse. You can't risk losing your job because your boyfriend needs your car. I know, Mama, Imani said, and she sounded so tired. I know, I'm going to talk to him about it. Good, I said. And Imani, if you need help, if you need rides to work or anything, you call me. Okay. Okay, Imani said. Thanks, Mama. But she never called me for help, and 2 months later, she lost her job. She called me crying again. They let me go, Mama. I was late 3 more times, and they said they couldn't keep me anymore. Oh, baby, I said, my heart breaking for her. I'm so sorry, but you'll find another job. You're a good nurse. Any hospital would be lucky to have you. I know, Imani said. I'm already applying to other places, but Mama, I'm scared. I have rent to pay and bills to pay, and I don't have any income now. Do you have savings? I asked. I had some, Imani said quietly. But I had to help Rashon with some business expenses a few months ago. He promised he'd pay me back when his deal closed, but it's taking longer than expected. I felt anger rising in my chest. Imani, are you telling me you gave your savings to Rashon? I didn't give it to him, Imani said defensively. I loaned it to him for his business. It's an investment in our future. How much? I asked. $8,000, Imani whispered. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. $8,000. That was all the savings Imani had. Money she'd worked hard to save over years. Money she needed for emergencies, like losing her job. Imani, I need to ask you something, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. Has Rashon gotten a job since his business isn't making money yet? He can't get a regular job, Imani said. He needs to focus on his business full-time. If he gets distracted with a job, he'll never get his company off the ground. But you lost your job because of him, I said. Because he was using your car. And now you have no income and no savings because you gave him your money. Baby, do you see how this isn't fair? It's not like that, Imani said, but she didn't sound convinced. You don't understand entrepreneurship, Mama. Sometimes you have to sacrifice in the short term for long-term success. Who's doing all the sacrificing, Imani? I asked. You or him? I have to go, Imani said quickly. I'll call you later. She hung up before I could say anything else. Over the next few months, things got worse. Imani found a new nursing job, but it paid less than her old one. She couldn't afford her apartment anymore, so she moved in with Rashon. It makes sense financially, she told me when she announced the move. Why should we both pay rent when we're planning a future together anyway? You've only been dating for a year, I pointed out. Don't you think you're moving fast? When you know, Imani said, but she didn't sound happy. She sounded tired and stressed. After she moved in with Rashon, I saw her less and less. She stopped coming to Sunday dinners completely. She rarely called. When I called her, she always said she was busy or tired. The few times I did see her, I barely recognized my daughter. She'd lost weight, too much weight. She had dark circles under her eyes. She dressed differently, too, less colorful, more subdued, like she was trying to disappear. Imani, are you okay? I asked her one day when she stopped by my house to pick up some mail that had been sent to my address. I'm fine, Mama, she said, not meeting my eyes. You don't look fine, I said gently. You look exhausted. Are you sleeping? Are you eating? I'm just stressed about work, Imani said. The new job is demanding. Is everything okay with Rashon? I asked. Imani's face changed. For just a moment, I saw something in her eyes, fear, sadness, but then it was gone, replaced by a defensive expression. Everything's fine with Rashon, she said firmly. Why do you always assume something's wrong with him? Because you're not yourself anymore, I said. Imani, you used to be so vibrant and full of life. Now you look like you're barely holding on, and it all started when you met him. That's not fair, Imani said. I've just been going through a difficult time, but Rashon has been so supportive. He's been there for me through everything. Has he? I asked. Or have you been there for him, supporting his dreams while yours fall apart? I need to go, Imani said, grabbing her mail. I'll call you later. But weeks went by, and she didn't call. I tried calling her, but half the time she didn't answer. When she did answer, our conversations were short and surface level. I felt like I was losing my daughter, like she was slipping away from me, disappearing into a life that was making her miserable, and I didn't know how to save her. Then one night at 2 a.m., my phone rang. It was Imani. Mama, her voice was shaking. She'd been crying. Baby, what's wrong? I asked, immediately awake. Can I come over? Imani asked. Please, I need to talk to you. Of course, I said. Come right now, I'll put the kettle on. 30 minutes later, Imani was sitting at my kitchen table, wrapped in a blanket, drinking chamomile tea. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Tell me what happened, I said gently, sitting across from her. And finally, my daughter told me the truth about what her life with Rashon was really like. Imani sat at my kitchen table that night, wrapped in my old quilt, her hands trembling as she held the warm cup of tea. She looked so small and broken. This wasn't the strong, confident daughter I'd raised. This was a woman who'd been beaten down by life, or more specifically, by the man she loved. Take your time, baby, I said gently. I'm not going anywhere, tell me everything. Imani took a shaky breath. Mama, I don't even know where to start, everything's such a mess. Start wherever feels right, I said. I sold my car, Imani said quietly. 2 weeks ago, Rashon said he needed money to close a business deal. He said it was urgent, that if he didn't come up with $5,000, he'd lose everything he'd been working toward. So I sold my car. I felt my heart sink. Baby, how are you getting to work? I take the bus, Imani said. It takes 2 hours each way because I have to transfer 3 times. I leave the house at 5 a.m. to get to my shift at 8. I don't get home until 8 p.m. I'm exhausted all the time. Why didn't Rashon sell his own car? I asked, though I already knew the answer. He says he needs his car for business meetings, Imani said. He says his car is an investment because it makes him look successful to potential clients. My car was older and not as impressive, so it made more sense to sell mine. And did his business deal close? I asked. Did he make the money he needed? Imani's face crumpled. The deal fell through. He said the investors backed out at the last minute, so now we don't have my car and we don't have the money either. Where did the $5,000 go? I asked. I don't know, Imani whispered. He won't tell me exactly. He just says it went toward business expenses. I reached across the table and took my daughter's hand. Imani, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Is Rashon working at all? Does he have any income? Imani was quiet for a long moment. Then she shook her head. No, he hasn't had any income for over a year. He says he's working on his business full-time, but Mama, she started crying harder. I don't think there is a business. I think he's been lying to me. What makes you think that? I asked gently. Because I've never seen any proof, Imani said. No business plan, no contracts, no clients, just talk, just promises. He says he's about to close deals, but they never happen. He says he's meeting with investors, but I've never met any of them. Mama, I've been supporting both of us for over a year now. My paycheck covers rent, groceries, utilities, everything. And it's not enough. Are you in debt? I asked, already knowing the answer. Imani nodded miserably. Credit cards. I had to use them to cover expenses when my paycheck ran out. I owe almost $15,000 now. The minimum payments alone are more than I can afford. I felt sick. My daughter was drowning financially because of this man. Imani, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you ask for help? Because I was ashamed, Imani said, tears streaming down her face. Because I knew you'd been right about him all along, and I didn't want to admit it. Because every time I tried to talk to you, Rashon would get upset and say you were trying to turn me against him. Does he stop you from talking to me? I asked, a terrible suspicion forming. Imani looked down at her tea. Not exactly, but he gets angry when I mention you. He says you don't respect him. He says you're trying to break us up, so it's just easier not to talk about you around him. And then it became easier to just not see you at all, so I wouldn't have to deal with his mood afterward. This was worse than I'd thought. Rashon was isolating my daughter, cutting her off from her support system so he could control her completely. Imani, that's not healthy, I said carefully. A man who loves you shouldn't make you choose between him and your family. I know, Imani whispered. But Mama, it's not just that, there's more. Tell me, I said. He criticizes me constantly, Imani said. My cooking isn't good enough. My cleaning isn't good enough. I'm not pretty enough. He says I need to lose weight even though I've already lost 20 pounds since I met him. He compares me to his ex-girlfriend all the time. He tells me I'm lucky he's with me because no other man would want me. I felt rage building in my chest. Imani, that's emotional abuse. You know that, right? I know, she said. I'm a nurse. I've seen abuse. I've helped patients who were in abusive relationships. But somehow I convinced myself it was different with us, that he didn't mean it, that he was just stressed about money and his business failures, that he'd go back to being the charming, wonderful man I met once things got better. But things aren't getting better, I said gently. No, Imani agreed. They're getting worse. Tonight we had a fight about money. I told him I couldn't keep supporting both of us. I told him he needed to get a job, any job, to help with expenses. And he exploded. Did he hurt you? I asked, my voice tight with fear. No, Imani said quickly. He's never hit me. But Mama, he screamed at me for 2 hours. He said I was ungrateful. That after everything he's done for me, after all the love he's given me, I had the nerve to pressure him about money. He said I was sabotaging his dreams, that I didn't believe in him, that I was just like everyone else who'd ever doubted him. That's when you called me, I asked. No, Imani said. That's when he told me to get out. He said if I couldn't support him, I should leave. So I grabbed my purse and walked out. I started walking down the street, and I realized I had nowhere to go. I don't have a car. I've barely talked to my friends in months because Rashon always found reasons why I couldn't see them. And I was too ashamed to call you because I knew you'd been right about him all along. But you called me anyway, I said. Because you're my mother, Imani said, crying. And no matter how much I've pushed you away, no matter how many times I've defended him when you tried to warn me, I knew you'd still answer the phone. I knew you'd still love me. I got up from my chair and wrapped my arms around my daughter. She sobbed into my shoulder like she was a little girl again. Of course I still love you, I said. I will always love you, and you always have a place here, always. I'm so sorry, Mama, Imani cried. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. I'm sorry I wasted 2 years on him. I'm sorry I let him destroy everything I'd built. SHH, I said, stroking her hair. What's done is done. Now we focus on moving forward. You're here now, you're safe. And we're going to figure this out together. We sat like that for a long time, mother and daughter, holding each other. When Imani finally calmed down, I made up the guest bedroom for her. Get some sleep, I said. You're exhausted, we'll talk more in the morning. But at 6 a.m., Imani's phone started ringing. She'd fallen asleep with it on the nightstand. I heard it from my bedroom down the hall, ring after ring after ring. I got up and went to check on her. Imani was awake, staring at her phone with a tortured expression. The screen showed Rashon calling for the 15th time. Don't answer it, I said from the doorway. He's going to keep calling, Imani said. Let him, I said. You don't owe him anything, especially not at 6 in the morning after he kicked you out. But Imani's phone started buzzing with text messages, one after another. I could see them lighting up the screen even from across the room. What's he saying? I asked. Imani scrolled through the messages, her face growing paler. He's saying he's sorry, that he shouldn't have yelled at me, that he was just stressed and took it out on me. He's saying he loves me, that he can't live without me, that I'm the best thing that ever happened to him. Classic manipulation, I said. He pushed you away, and now that you're actually gone, he's trying to pull you back. He's saying he's going to change, Imani continued reading. He's saying he'll get a job. He's saying we can work through this together. Mama, he sounds so sincere. I'm sure he does, I said. That's how men like him operate. They break you down, and then they build you back up just enough to keep you hooked. Imani, please don't fall for it. What if he really means it this time? Imani asked, and I could hear the hope in her voice. The desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, the man she loved could change. Baby, has he ever changed before? I asked gently. Think about the last 2 years. How many times has he promised to do better? How many times has he said he'd get a job or contribute financially or treat you with respect? And how many times has he actually followed through? Imani was quiet. We both knew the answer. But Mama, I love him, Imani said, and her voice broke. I know that sounds stupid after everything I just told you. I know you probably think I'm pathetic, but I do love him. And part of me still believes that the man I fell in love with is in there somewhere. That if I just try hard enough, if I just love him enough, he'll come back. I sat down on the edge of the bed and took my daughter's hands. Imani, listen to me. The man you fell in love with doesn't exist. He never did. That charming, ambitious, perfect man you met 2 years ago, that was an act. That was who Rashon pretended to be to hook you. The real Rashon is the man you've been living with for the past 2 years. The man who takes your money, criticizes you constantly, isolates you from your family, and screams at you when you ask him to contribute. But people can change, Imani protested weakly. They can, I agreed, but only if they want to. And Rashon doesn't want to change. Why would he? His life is perfect right now. He has a woman who pays all his bills, cooks his meals, cleans his house, and makes excuses for him when he treats her badly. He has no reason to change because you keep accepting his behavior. Imani started crying again. So what am I supposed to do? Just give up on him? Give up on 2 years of my life? You're not giving up on 2 years, I said. You're saving the rest of your life. Imani, you're 32 years old. You're beautiful and smart and talented. You have so much ahead of you. But if you stay with Rashon, this is your future, working yourself to exhaustion to support a man who gives you nothing in return, drowning in debt, being criticized and controlled, losing yourself piece by piece until you don't even remember who you were before you met him. I already don't remember, Imani whispered. I look at old photos of myself from before Rashon, and I barely recognize that person. I used to be happy. I used to have dreams. Now I just feel tired and empty. Then it's time to find yourself again, I said. And you can't do that with him in your life. Imani's phone buzzed again. Another text from Rashon. What does it say? I asked. Imani read the message aloud. Baby, please come home. I need you. I promise I'll do better. Just give me one more chance. I love you so much. How many chances have you given him already? I asked. Too many, Imani admitted. Then don't give him another one, I said. Imani, I can't make this decision for you. You're a grown woman. But I'm asking you, as your mother who loves you more than anything, please don't go back to him. Stay here. Let's figure out your finances. Let's get you back on your feet. Let's help you remember who you are without him. Imani looked at her phone. Then she looked at me. I could see the war happening inside her, love battling with self-respect, hope battling with reality. Finally, she turned off her phone and set it on the nightstand. Okay, she said. I'll stay, at least for now I'll stay. I hugged her tightly, relief flooding through me. That's my girl. You're so strong, Imani, stronger than you know. For 3 weeks, Imani lived with me. And slowly, I started to see glimpses of my real daughter again. She was still working at the hospital, taking the bus 2 hours each way. It was exhausting, but she did it. She was paying down her credit card debt little by little. She was eating regularly again and had gained back some of the weight she'd lost. She was sleeping better. And most importantly, she was staying away from Rashon. He called and texted constantly for the first week, then gradually less and less. By the 3rd week, he'd stopped completely. I think he's finally given up, Imani said one evening as we sat on my porch drinking lemonade. Good, I said. You deserve so much better than him. I know that now, Imani said. It's strange, when I was with him, I couldn't see how bad things were. But now that I have some distance, it's so clear. He was using me. He never loved me. He loved what I could do for him. I'm proud of you for seeing that, I said. It takes real strength to admit you were wrong about someone. I've been thinking, Imani said. I want to get my own place again. I love being here with you, Mama, and I appreciate everything you've done for me. But I need to prove to myself that I can make it on my own, that I don't need a man to define me. I think that's wonderful, I said, and whenever you're ready, we'll help you find a place. But the next day, everything fell apart. I came home from running errands and found Rashon sitting on my porch. What are you doing here? I demanded. You need to leave. I need to talk to Imani, Rashon said. He looked terrible, unshaven, rumpled clothes, dark circles under his eyes. Please, Mrs. Harper, just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Imani doesn't want to talk to you, I said firmly. She's moved on. You need to do the same. I can't move on, Rashon said, and to my surprise, he started crying. Real tears. I love her, Mrs. Harper. I know I messed up. I know I took her for granted. But I've changed. I got a job, a real job. I'm working at a warehouse. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work and it pays decent money. I can support myself now. I can be the man Imani deserves. I studied his face, trying to determine if this was another manipulation or if he was actually sincere. But before I could decide, Imani came out of the house. Rashon, she said, shock on her face. What are you doing here? Imani, please, Rashon said, standing up. Please give me a chance to explain. I've changed. I have a job now. Look. He pulled out a pay stub and showed it to her. I've been working for 2 weeks. I'm making $18 an hour. It's not much, but it's a start. And I found a roommate to split rent with, so I'm not drowning in expenses anymore. That's good, Imani said carefully. I'm glad you're getting your life together. I'm doing it for us, Rashon said, so we can have a real future together. Imani, I love you. I know I didn't show it before, but I do. And I'm asking you, begging you to give me one more chance. Let me prove to you that I've changed. I watched my daughter's face. I saw the hope creeping back in. The same hope I'd seen 3 weeks ago when she'd first left him. Imani, don't, I said quietly. This is exactly what he does. He sucks you back in. But Mama, he has a job, Imani said. Doesn't that prove he's serious about changing? It proves he can hold a job for 2 weeks, I said. It doesn't prove anything else. Mrs. Harper, I understand why you don't trust me, Rashon said. I haven't given you any reason to, but I'm asking you to give me a chance. Let Imani make her own decision about her own life. He was clever, I'll give him that, framing it as me trying to control Imani's life rather than me trying to protect her. Imani can make her own decisions, I said, but I hope she makes them with her eyes open this time. Can we talk? Rashon asked Imani. Just the two of us, please. And I watched, my heart sinking, as Imani nodded and walked off the porch with Rashon. They stood in my front yard talking for over an hour. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see Imani's body language softening. I could see her letting her guard down. When they finally came back to the porch, I knew what was coming before Imani even said the words. Mama, I'm going to give him another chance, Imani said. I know you don't approve. I know you think I'm making a mistake. But he's proven he's willing to change, and I think I owe it to both of us to see if this can work. You don't owe him anything, I said, my voice hard. Imani, please, please don't do this. He's manipulating you again. He has a job, Mama, Imani said. That's what you wanted, right? For him to contribute. Well, now he can. Having a job for 2 weeks doesn't erase 2 years of using you, I said. Imani, if you go back to him now, you're telling him that his behavior is acceptable, that he can treat you terribly, and as long as he cries and promises to change, you'll take him back. But people deserve second chances, Imani said. He's had dozens of chances, I said. How many more are you going to give him? As many as it takes, Imani said, and I heard the defiance in her voice. The same defiance I'd heard 2 years ago when she first started dating him. Mama, I love him, and if you love me, you'll support my decision. I do love you, I said, but I can't support this. I can't watch you go back to a man who's destroying you. Then I guess we have a problem, Imani said coldly. And that's when Rashon dropped the bomb that would change everything. Actually, Imani, Rashon said, reaching into his pocket. I was hoping I could do this properly. He pulled out a small box, a ring box. No, he wasn't going to. Rashon got down on one knee right there in my front yard. Imani, these past 3 weeks without you have been the worst of my life. They made me realize what I had and what I'd lost. You're the love of my life, the only woman I've ever truly loved. And I know I haven't been the man you deserve, but I want to be. Will you marry me? He opened the box, revealing a small diamond ring. Probably cost less than $500, but to Imani, it might as well have been the crown jewels. Oh my God, Imani gasped, tears streaming down her face. Imani, don't, I said urgently. Please think about this. Don't make this decision when you're emotional. But Imani wasn't listening to me. She was staring at Rashon with stars in her eyes. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll marry you. And my world came crashing down. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments. Would you let your child marry someone you know is wrong for them? Where are you watching from? I stood frozen on my porch, watching my daughter cry tears of joy as she hugged the man who'd spent 2 years destroying her life. The man who was now her fiancé. Congratulations, baby, Rashon said, kissing her. We're going to be so happy together, I promise. Empty promises. That's all this man had ever given my daughter, but she couldn't see it. She was too blinded by love or what she thought was love. Mama, aren't you going to congratulate us? Imani asked, turning to me with her left hand extended, showing off the tiny diamond ring. I looked at my daughter, at her hopeful face, at the ring that probably cost less than 1 month of the expenses she'd paid for him over the past 2 years, and I knew I had a choice to make. I could pretend to be happy. I could smile and hug them and congratulate them. I could go along with this disaster to keep my daughter in my life. Or I could tell the truth, even if it meant losing her. No, I said quietly. I'm not going to congratulate you. Imani's smile faded. What? I can't congratulate you for making a terrible mistake, I said. Imani, you've known this man for 2 years. He's used you, manipulated you, isolated you from everyone who loves you, taken your money, and destroyed your credit. And now, after 3 weeks of having a job, he proposes and you say yes. Baby, this is insane. Mrs. Harper, I understand your concerns, Rashon said smoothly. But people change. I've changed. I have a job now. I'm working hard to build a life that Imani can be proud of. You've had a job for 2 weeks, I said. 2 weeks doesn't prove anything except that you're desperate to get Imani back under your control. That's not fair, Imani said, her voice rising. Why can't you just be happy for me? Why can't you believe that people can change? Because I've lived longer than you, I said. I've seen more, and I've learned that when someone shows you who they are, you should believe them. Rashon has shown you who he is for 2 years. The fact that he got a job doesn't change his character. You don't know him like I do, Imani said. You're right, I said. I don't know the man he pretends to be when he wants something from you. I only know the man he actually is, the one who took advantage of you for 2 years. That's enough, Rashon said, his voice hard. The charm was slipping. Mrs. Harper, I've been respectful to you. I've listened to your concerns. But you need to accept that Imani is a grown woman who can make her own choices, and she's chosen me. That's right, Mama, Imani said. I've made my choice, and I need you to respect it. I can't respect a choice that I know is going to hurt you, I said. Imani, if you marry this man, you're going to regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not next month, but eventually you're going to wake up and realize you've wasted years of your life on someone who doesn't deserve you. Or maybe, Imani said coldly, I'm going to wake up happy with my husband, living the life I want to live. Did you ever think of that? Did you ever consider that maybe you're wrong about him? I'm not wrong, I said. And deep down, you know it too. That's why you left him 3 weeks ago. That's why you called me crying. That's why you said you didn't recognize yourself anymore. Imani, you were starting to see the truth. Don't let one proposal erase everything you learned. The truth is that I love him, Imani said. And he loves me, and we're getting married, with or without your blessing. Then you're doing it without my blessing, I said, my voice steady even though my heart was breaking. Because I won't stand at a wedding and celebrate something I know is wrong. What are you saying? Imani asked, her voice shaking. I'm saying if you marry him, you're doing it without me, I said. I won't be at the wedding. I won't congratulate you. I won't pretend to be happy about this. You're choosing to not be part of my wedding, Imani said, tears starting to fall. Mama, I'm your only daughter. How can you do this to me? How can I watch you destroy your life and smile about it? I asked. Imani, I love you more than anything in this world, but I love you too much to support something that's going to hurt you. I can't celebrate this marriage. I won't. Then I guess that's your choice, Imani said, her voice breaking. Come on, Rashon, let's go. She walked off my porch without looking back. Rashon followed, but before he left, he turned to me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Thank you, Mrs. Harper, he said quietly. You just made my job so much easier. Now Imani doesn't have anyone but me. And that's when I realized the truth. Rashon had planned this. He'd known exactly what he was doing when he proposed on my porch. He'd known I would object. He'd known it would create a wedge between Imani and me. And that's exactly what he wanted, to isolate my daughter completely so he could control her without interference. I'd played right into his hands. 2 months later, the wedding invitation. 2 months passed. I didn't hear from Imani at all. I tried calling her several times, but she never answered. I tried texting, but she didn't respond. It was like she'd erased me from her life. I was heartbroken. I missed my daughter terribly. I second-guessed my decision 1,000 times. Maybe I should have just supported her. Maybe I should have gone along with it to keep her in my life. Maybe I was wrong to give her an ultimatum. But every time I thought about backing down, I remembered the look in Rashon's eyes when he'd thanked me for making his job easier. I remembered the 2 years of watching my daughter disappear, and I knew I'd made the right choice, even if it was the hardest choice I'd ever made. Then one day, I received a wedding invitation in the mail. The envelope was cream-colored with fancy script. I opened it with shaking hands. You are invited to celebrate the marriage of Imani Harper and Rashon Mitchell. Saturday, September 15th at 4 p.m. Pleasant Grove Community Center. There was no personal note, no message from my daughter, just a formal invitation like I was a distant acquaintance rather than her mother. I sat at my kitchen table holding that invitation, tears streaming down my face. My only daughter was getting married, and I wasn't going to be there. But what hurt even more was the location and the time. Saturday at 4 p.m. at a community center. Imani had always dreamed of a church wedding. She'd talked about it since she was a little girl. She wanted to get married in a church, surrounded by family and friends, with a beautiful reception afterward. But this wedding was at a community center, on a Saturday afternoon, which meant it was going to be small and cheap, which meant Rashon had convinced Imani to have a simple wedding, probably because he didn't want to spend money on it. My daughter was settling. She was compromising her dreams for a man who'd never compromised anything for her. I wanted to call her. I wanted to tell her she deserved better. I wanted to beg her to reconsider. But I knew she wouldn't listen. She'd made her choice, and I'd made mine. 3 days before the wedding, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Mrs. Harper, this is Keisha. I'm Imani's friend from nursing school. I remembered Keisha. She and Imani had been close before Rashon came into the picture, but I hadn't heard Imani mention her in over a year. Hello, Keisha, I said. Is everything okay? I need to talk to you about Imani, Keisha said, her voice urgent. Can we meet somewhere, today? Of course, I said. Where? An hour later, I was sitting in a coffee shop across from Keisha. She looked worried and tired. Thank you for meeting me, Keisha said. I've been trying to figure out if I should call you for weeks. What's going on? I asked. It's about the wedding, Keisha said. Mrs. Harper, I'm really worried about Imani. She asked me to be her bridesmaid, and I said yes because I wanted to support her. But the more time I spend with her, the more concerned I get. Tell me everything, I said. She's not herself, Keisha said. She's lost so much weight, she barely smiles. She seems exhausted all the time. And Mrs. Harper, she's completely isolated. I'm her bridesmaid, but I'm literally the only friend she has left. Rashon has driven everyone else away. How did he do that? I asked. He finds reasons why she can't see us, Keisha explained. If we make plans, he suddenly needs her for something. Or he picks a fight with her right before we're supposed to meet so she's too upset to go. Or he makes her feel guilty for abandoning him. Eventually, most of her friends just gave up trying. I only managed to stay in her life because I kept pushing. I'm glad you did, I said. But Mrs. Harper, there's something else, Keisha said, lowering her voice. Rashon's job, the warehouse job he got, he was fired after 3 weeks. My heart sank. Does Imani know? I don't know, Keisha said. He told her he quit because the hours were too demanding and it was interfering with his business plans. But I have a friend who works at that warehouse, and she told me he was fired for not showing up to shifts. So he's unemployed again, I said. And Imani is supporting him again, Keisha confirmed. Mrs. Harper, she's working double shifts at the hospital. She's exhausted, and all that extra money she's making, it's going to pay for this wedding that Rashon insisted they have right away. Right away, I repeated. He wants to get married as soon as possible, Keisha said. At first, Imani wanted to wait a year, save up money, do it right. But Rashon pushed and pushed until she agreed to do it in 3 months. Mrs. Harper, I think he's afraid she'll change her mind if they wait. He's probably right, I said bitterly. There's more, Keisha said. The wedding is costing Imani about $8,000. She took out a personal loan to pay for it because she doesn't have savings anymore. Mrs. Harper, She's going to start her marriage $30,000 in debt, 15 from the credit cards and another 8 from this wedding loan, plus whatever other debts Rashon has. I felt sick. My daughter was drowning financially, and she was about to tie herself legally to a man who would only pull her deeper underwater. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because someone needs to stop this wedding," Keisha said, "and I can't do it. Imani won't listen to me, but she might listen to you." "She won't," I said sadly. "I already tried. I told her I couldn't support this marriage, and she chose him over me." "But you're her mother," Keisha said desperately. "You can't just give up on her." "I'm not giving up on her," I said. "I'm giving her space to make her own mistakes. Keisha, I've tried everything. I've warned her. I've shown her the truth. I've refused to enable this relationship. Nothing has worked. At some point, I have to accept that Imani is going to do what she wants to do, regardless of what I say." "So you're really not going to the wedding?" Keisha asked. "No," I said firmly. I can't. I can't stand there and watch my daughter marry a man who's destroying her. I can't smile and pretend everything is fine when it's not. And most of all, I can't give Rashon the satisfaction of seeing me surrender." "What do you mean?" Keisha asked. "Rashon wants me at that wedding," I explained. "Not because he cares about me, but because my presence would symbolize that he's one. That he's successfully isolated Imani from everyone who might protect her, and now even her own mother is falling in line. If I go to that wedding, I'm telling him he can treat my daughter however he wants and I'll accept it." "But if you don't go, Imani might never forgive you," Keisha said. "I know," I said, my voice breaking. "But I'd rather lose my daughter temporarily to teach her she deserves better than keep her in my life while watching her be destroyed." Keisha was quiet for a moment. "That's the hardest kind of love," she finally said. "Yes," I agreed. "It is." The wedding day. The day of Imani's wedding, I woke up at 6 a.m. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept imagining what was happening. Imani getting ready, putting on her dress, walking down the aisle without me there. I spent the morning crying and praying. Praying that somehow, someway, Imani would see the truth before it was too late. Praying that she'd call off the wedding. Praying for a miracle. But miracles don't always come when you want them to. At 3 p.m., 1 hour before the ceremony was supposed to start, my phone rang. It was Imani. My heart leaped. Maybe she was calling it off. Maybe she'd come to her senses. "Hello," I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Mama," Imani's voice was cold, controlled. "I'm calling because I wanted to give you one last chance. The wedding starts in an hour. If you leave now, you can make it. I'm asking you, one final time, will you come to my wedding?" I closed my eyes. This was my last chance to be at my daughter's wedding, to see her in her dress, to be part of this day, even if the marriage was a mistake. But if I went, I was endorsing this marriage. I was telling Imani that Rashon's behavior was acceptable. I was choosing temporary peace over my daughter's long-term well-being. "Imani," I said gently, "I love you more than you will ever know, but I can't come to your wedding. I can't celebrate a marriage that I know is going to hurt you." There was a long silence. Then Imani's voice came through the phone, hard as steel. "Then I guess this is goodbye, Mama. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't try to contact me. You made your choice. Now live with it." "Imani, please," I started, but she'd already hung up. I sat on my couch, holding my silent phone, knowing that somewhere across town, my daughter was getting ready to marry a man who would make her life miserable. And I wasn't going to be there. I'd chosen peace over being at my daughter's wedding. I'd chosen truth over temporary harmony. I'd chosen to love her enough to let her make her own mistakes, even if it meant losing her. It was the hardest choice I'd ever made, and I prayed I wouldn't regret it forever. 2 weeks after the wedding, the silence. 2 weeks passed after the wedding. I didn't hear from Imani at all. No phone call, no text, nothing. I found out from Keisha that the wedding had happened, that Imani had walked down the aisle, that she and Rashon were now married. "How did she seem?" I asked Keisha when she called to give me the update. "Honestly," Keisha said, "she seemed sad. She smiled for the photos, but Mrs. Harper, it didn't reach her eyes. The whole day felt hollow, like she was going through the motions of a wedding without any of the joy. "Did she mention me?" I asked, even though I didn't want to know the answer. "Only once," Keisha said quietly. "Right before the ceremony started, she looked at the empty seat in the front row, the seat where you should have been, and she cried, just for a minute. Then she pulled herself together and walked down the aisle." I started crying. I should have been there. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I should have supported her no matter what. "No," Keisha said firmly. "Mrs. Harper, you did the right thing. It might not feel like it now, but you did, because you know what happened at the reception." "What?" I asked. "Rashon got drunk," Keisha said, "and he spent half the night talking to other women, flirting with them, right in front of Imani, on their wedding day. And when Imani got upset, he told her she was being dramatic and jealous. Mrs. Harper, he humiliated her at her own wedding." I felt rage burning in my chest. "And where is she now?" "Living with him," Keisha said. "In his apartment. She gave up the lease on the place she'd been staying at your house. She moved all her stuff into his place. She's Mrs. Rashon Mitchell now." Mrs. Rashon Mitchell. My daughter had taken his name. She'd legally tied herself to this man. "Keisha, promise me something," I said. "Anything," Keisha replied. "Promise me you'll keep an eye on her," I said. "I know she doesn't want to hear from me right now, but promise me that if things get really bad, if she needs help, you'll call me." "I promise," Keisha said. "Mrs. Harper, for what it's worth, I think you're the bravest mother I've ever met. It takes real strength to love someone enough to let them fail." After Keisha hung up, I sat alone in my house thinking about what she'd said. Loving someone enough to let them fail. Was that what I was doing? Or was I just abandoning my daughter when she needed me most? I didn't know the answer. All I knew was that I'd made a choice, and now I had to live with it. 6 weeks after the wedding, the first sign. 6 weeks after the wedding, I was at the grocery store when I saw someone who looked familiar. A thin woman in worn clothes, hunched over her shopping cart, carefully examining prices. It took me a moment to realize it was Imani. My daughter looked terrible. She'd lost even more weight. Her clothes hung off her frame. She had dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. She looked exhausted and defeated. My first instinct was to run to her, to hug her, to take her home, but I stopped myself. She'd told me not to contact her. She'd made her choice clear. But then Imani looked up and saw me. Our eyes met across the produce section, and for just a moment I saw pain flash across her face. Longing, regret. Then she quickly looked away and pushed her cart in the opposite direction, practically running away from me. I stood there frozen, watching my daughter flee from me, the daughter I'd raised, the daughter I loved more than life itself, the daughter who was now a stranger to me. As I watched her disappear around the corner, I noticed something. Her shopping cart was almost empty. A few boxes of ramen noodles, a loaf of cheap bread, some eggs, that was it. My daughter, who'd been a successful nurse with a good income, was shopping like someone who could barely afford to eat. And I knew, right then, that Rashon had her in debt so deep she could barely survive. And there was nothing I could do about it because she'd shut me out completely. I abandoned my own shopping cart and left the store. I sat in my car in the parking lot and cried for 20 minutes. Then I drove home and did something I'd been avoiding. I got on my knees, and I prayed harder than I'd ever prayed in my life. "God, I don't know if I did the right thing. I don't know if I should have supported her anyway. But I'm asking you, begging you, please protect my daughter. Please open her eyes to the truth. Please bring her home to me. And please give me the strength to wait, no matter how long it takes." As I prayed, I felt something shift inside me, a peace that didn't make sense, a quiet certainty that somehow, some way, this was all going to work out. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, but I had to believe that the daughter I'd raised, the strong, smart, independent woman, was still in there somewhere, and eventually she'd find her way back. I just had to wait, and trust, and love her from a distance until she was ready to let me love her up close again. But what I didn't know was that everything was about to change, and the phone call I was about to receive would force me to make another impossible choice. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 3 months after I saw Imani in the grocery store, 9 months after her wedding, my phone rang at 2:30 in the morning. I woke up confused and scared. Nobody calls with good news at 2:30 a.m. I grabbed my phone and saw an unfamiliar number. For a moment, I almost didn't answer, but something told me I needed to pick up. "Hello," I said, my voice thick with sleep. "Is this Celestine Harper?" a woman's voice asked. She sounded professional but concerned. "Yes, this is Celestine," I said, my heart starting to race. "Who is this?" "This is Nurse Talia from Charlotte Presbyterian Hospital," the woman said. "I'm calling about your daughter, Imani Mitchell. She was brought into the emergency room about an hour ago." My world stopped. "What happened? Is she okay?" "She's stable now," Nurse Talia said carefully. "But Mrs. Harper, you need to come to the hospital as soon as possible. Your daughter is asking for you." I was already out of bed, pulling on clothes. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. What happened to her?" There was a pause. "The doctor will explain everything when you get here. Just know that she's safe now and she wants to see you." I drove to that hospital faster than I'd ever driven in my life. My mind was racing with terrible possibilities. Had Rashon hurt her? Was she sick? Had there been an accident? When I got to the emergency room, Nurse Talia was waiting for me at the reception desk. She was a black woman in her 50s with kind eyes. "Mrs. Harper," she said, "come with me." She led me through the emergency room doors, past curtained areas where other patients were being treated. Finally, she stopped at a curtained area near the back. "Your daughter is in here," Nurse Talia said quietly. "But Mrs. Harper, I need to prepare you. Imani is physically okay, no major injuries, but she's been through something traumatic. The doctor has spoken with her, and so has a social worker from our domestic violence response team." My blood ran cold. Domestic violence. "Imani will tell you what happened," Nurse Talia said. "I just wanted you to know before you went in. And Mrs. Harper, your daughter is very lucky. Another hour or two, and we might be having a very different conversation." She pulled back the curtain, and I saw my daughter. Imani was lying in a hospital bed, hooked up to monitors. She had an IV in her arm. Her face was pale and thin, even thinner than when I'd seen her at the grocery store. She had a bruise forming on her left cheek. Her lip was split, and around her neck I could see red marks that looked like handprints. Someone had tried to strangle my daughter. "Mama," Imani said when she saw me. Her voice was hoarse and broken. She started crying immediately. "Mama, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." I rushed to her bedside and wrapped my arms around her as gently as I could, mindful of the IV and the monitors. "SHH, baby. It's okay. I'm here now. You're safe." "I should have listened to you," Imani sobbed into my shoulder. "You were right about everything. You were right about him, and I was so stupid. I'm so sorry, Mama." "Don't apologize," I said, tears streaming down my own face. "Just tell me what happened. Who did this to you?" But I already knew. Deep down, I'd always known it would come to this. "Rashon," Imani whispered. "He tried to kill me, Mama. He tried to kill me." Once Imani calmed down enough to talk, she told me everything. The whole terrible story of the 9 months since her wedding. "It started on the honeymoon," Imani said. "We went to a beach resort for 3 days. That's all we could afford. The first night was nice. But the second night, Rashon got drunk at the hotel bar. He spent hours talking to other women, flirting with them, buying them drinks. I tried to get him to come back to the room, and he screamed at me in front of everyone. He called me controlling and jealous. He said I was ruining his vacation." "On a honeymoon," I said, disgusted. "That was just the beginning," Imani continued. "When we got back home, things got worse fast. Remember how he said he quit his warehouse job? He was actually fired, and he never got another job. Mama, he hasn't worked once in the 9 months we've been married. Not one single day." "So you've been supporting both of you," I said. I've been working double shifts, sometimes triple shifts, just to keep up with all the bills, Imani said. The rent, utilities, groceries, his car payment, insurance, credit card minimums. Mama, I'm drowning. I'm $45,000 in debt now. I had to take out another loan just to pay the minimum payments on the other loans. My heart broke. Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you ask for help? Because I was ashamed, Imani said, fresh tears falling. Because you'd been right about him all along and I'd chosen him over you. Because I'd told you not to contact me. How could I call you after that? You can always call me, I said firmly. No matter what, I'm your mother. That never changes. I know that now, Imani said. But Mama, the debt wasn't even the worst part. It was how he treated me. He criticized everything, my cooking, my cleaning, my appearance. He said I was ugly and fat, even though I'd lost 30 pounds because I was so stressed I could barely eat. He said no other man would want me, that I was lucky he stayed with me. I felt rage burning in my chest, but I kept my voice calm. Go on, baby. He controlled everything, Imani continued. I had to tell him where I was going every minute. If I was even 5 minutes late coming home from work, he'd scream at me and accuse me of cheating. He went through my phone constantly. He made me delete all my social media. He didn't want me talking to anyone, not friends, not coworkers, and especially not you. He isolated you completely, I said. Yes, Imani agreed. And Mama, the worst part was that I let him. I kept making excuses for him. I kept telling myself it was just stress from not having a job. That once he found work, things would get better. But they never did. They just got worse. When did he start hitting you? I asked gently. Imani closed her eyes. 3 months ago. The first time, it was just a slap. He said I'd provoked him by questioning why he'd spent $200 on sneakers when we couldn't afford groceries. He apologized afterward. Cried. Promised it would never happen again. But it did, I said. Over and over, Imani whispered. Every time I questioned anything he did. Every time I asked him to get a job. Every time I said I was tired or stressed. He'd hit me. Then he'd apologize. Then he'd do it again. And I kept forgiving him because I didn't know what else to do. I was trapped, Mama. I had no money. He'd taken all of it. I had no friends, driven them all away. I had no family. I'd pushed you away. I had nowhere to go. What happened tonight? I asked. Imani's hand went to her throat, touching the red marks. Tonight, I came home from a double shift at the hospital. I was exhausted. I'd been on my feet for 16 hours straight. And when I walked in, Rashon was on the couch playing video games. The apartment was a mess. There were dishes everywhere, trash everywhere, and I snapped. What did you say? I asked. I asked him why he couldn't at least clean the apartment while I was working, Imani said. That's all, just asked him to clean, and he went crazy. He jumped up from the couch and started screaming at me, calling me names, saying I was ungrateful, that he didn't have to clean because taking care of the house was my job as his wife. That's not how marriage works, I said, anger rising. I know, Imani said, and I told him that. I said marriage was supposed to be a partnership, that if I was working 60 hours a week to pay all the bills, the least he could do was help around the house. And that's when he hit me. Hard. Harder than he ever had before. I fell and hit my head on the coffee table, and while I was on the ground, he got on top of me and started choking me. I felt sick. Oh, baby. I couldn't breathe, Mama, Imani said, her voice shaking. I really thought I was going to die. I thought, this is it. This is how I die. And the last thing I said to my mother was to leave me alone. I couldn't stop thinking about how I'd treated you, how I'd pushed you away, and I was going to die without ever getting to apologize. How did you get away? I asked. My neighbor heard the noise and called the police, Imani said. When Rashon heard the sirens, he let go of me and ran, just ran out the back door and disappeared. The police came in and found me on the floor. They called an ambulance, and here I am. Where is Rashon now? I asked. The police are looking for him, Imani said. They issued a warrant for his arrest, attempted murder. But Mama, I'm scared. What if they don't find him? What if he comes back? He won't get near you, I said firmly. I won't let him. Imani, you're coming home with me, tonight, as soon as the doctors discharge you. I don't have anything, Imani said. No clothes, no money, no car. He took everything. My paycheck goes straight to his bank account. He made me change it months ago. Mama, I have literally nothing. You have me, I said. And that's all you need. We'll figure out the rest together. The doctors kept Imani in the hospital for observation until the next morning. I stayed with her the whole time, holding her hand, letting her know she wasn't alone anymore. When they finally discharged her, I drove her to my house, her real home, the place where she'd always be welcome, no matter what. Everything looks the same, Imani said when we walked in. She sounded surprised and relieved. Your room is exactly how you left it, I said. I never changed anything. I knew you'd come back someday. Imani started crying again. How did you know? How did you have so much faith in me when I'd treated you so badly? Because I'm your mother, I said simply. I know who you really are, and I knew that eventually the real Imani, the strong, smart woman I raised, would come back. It just took longer than I hoped. I'm sorry it took so long, Imani said. I'm sorry I was so stubborn. I'm sorry I chose him over you. You were in love, I said, or what you thought was love, and you wanted to believe in him. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem was never you, Imani. The problem was him. You tried to tell me, Imani said. 2 years ago, you told me he was bad news, and I didn't listen. Would you have listened if I'd tried harder? I asked. Or would you have just dug in deeper? Imani thought about it. I would have dug in deeper. Every time you warned me about him, I just defended him harder. I thought you were being judgmental. I thought you didn't understand our relationship. That's why I had to step back, I said. Imani, I could have kept arguing with you. I could have kept trying to convince you to leave him. But all that would have done is push you further away and closer to him. So instead, I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I let you go. I let you make your own choices, even though I knew you were choosing wrong. And I waited for the day when you'd be ready to come home. I'm ready now, Mama, Imani said. I'm so ready. I don't want to be Mrs. Rashon Mitchell anymore. I want to be me again. Then that's what we'll work on, I said, getting you back to being you. The next 3 months were hard, but they were also beautiful in their own way, because I got to watch my daughter heal, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. First, we dealt with the legal issues. Rashon was arrested 2 weeks after he ran. The police found him staying with a friend in another city. He was charged with attempted murder, domestic violence, and several other crimes. Imani got a restraining order against him, and she filed for divorce. I never want to see him again, Imani said the day we went to the courthouse to file the papers. I never want to hear his voice. I never want him to have any power over me ever again. He won't, I promised. We'll make sure of it. Next, we dealt with the financial issues. Imani's debt was overwhelming, $45,000 spread across credit cards, personal loans, and medical bills. We met with a financial counselor who helped us create a plan. It would take years to pay off, but at least there was a plan. Imani also changed her direct deposit back to her own bank account, an account Rashon didn't have access to. She closed the joint account they'd shared. She started keeping her own money for the first time in 2 years. It feels weird to have my own paycheck again, Imani said after her first payday living with me. I forgot what it was like to not have to hand over all my money. Get used to it, I said. Your money is yours, and nobody gets to take it from you again. But more than the legal and financial healing, the most important healing was emotional. Imani went to therapy twice a week. Her therapist specialized in domestic violence survivors, and she helped Imani understand that what had happened to her wasn't her fault. I kept blaming myself, Imani told me one evening as we sat on the porch drinking tea. I kept thinking if I'd just been a better wife, if I'd just been quieter or more supportive or prettier, maybe he wouldn't have hurt me. That's not how abuse works, I said. Rashon didn't abuse you because of anything you did. He abused you because of who he is. You could have been perfect, and he still would have found reasons to hurt you. My therapist said the same thing, Imani said. She said abusers don't abuse because their partners do something wrong. They abuse because they want power and control. and they'll do whatever it takes to get it. She's right, I said. Mama, can I ask you something? Imani said. Anything, baby, I replied. Why did you refuse to come to my wedding? Imani asked. I understand now that you were trying to protect me, but at the time, I felt like you'd abandoned me, like you'd chosen your pride over your love for me. I thought carefully about how to answer. Imani, if I'd come to your wedding, what would that have told you? That you supported my marriage, Imani said. Exactly, I said. And I couldn't support that marriage because I knew it was going to hurt you. Baby, I loved you too much to stand there and celebrate something I knew was wrong. And I knew that if I went to that wedding, you'd think I approved of Rashon, that maybe you'd been right about him and I'd been wrong. But I felt so alone, Imani said quietly. Standing in that community center, looking at the empty seat where you should have been, I felt like you'd given up on me. I never gave up on you, I said. I just refused to enable your self-destruction. There's a difference. If I'd gone to that wedding, I would have been telling you that Rashon's behavior was acceptable, that you marrying a man who used you was fine with me, and I couldn't do that. Even if it meant losing me, Imani asked. Even then, I said, because I knew that if I really lost you, if you never spoke to me again, at least I'd lost you with my integrity intact. I'd lost you knowing I'd told you the truth and refused to compromise on what was right. And I hoped that someday, when you were ready, you'd understand. I understand now, Imani said, tears in her eyes. Mama, what you did, refusing to go to the wedding, that was the hardest kind of love. You loved me enough to risk losing me. You loved me enough to let me fail. You loved me enough to tell me the truth even when I didn't want to hear it. That's what real love does, I said. Real love doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels terrible. Sometimes it means saying no when you want to say yes. Sometimes it means watching someone you love make mistakes because you know they need to learn the lesson themselves. I learned the lesson, Imani said. I learned it the hard way, but I learned it. 6 months after that terrible night in the emergency room, Imani and I were sitting in a courtroom again. But this time, it was for something good. The judge looked at the papers in front of him and then at Imani. Mrs. Mitchell, you're requesting to have your name legally changed back to Imani Harper. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Imani said. Her voice was strong and clear. I'd like my maiden name back. I don't want to carry his name anymore. I understand, the judge said kindly. The court approves your request. As of today, you are legally Imani Harper again. Imani smiled, a real smile, the first genuine smile I'd seen on her face in almost 3 years. Thank you, Your Honor. Outside the courthouse, Imani turned to me. I'm me again, Mama, finally. After 3 years of being lost, I'm me again. You never stopped being you, I said. You were just hidden for a while, but you found your way back. Because you showed me the way, Imani said. Mama, when I was at my lowest, when I'd pushed everyone away and I thought I had no one, you were still there. You didn't force yourself back into my life. You didn't say, I told you so. You just waited. And when I finally asked for help, you were right there. That's what mothers do, I said. No, Imani said. That's what good mothers do. A lot of mothers would have cut me off completely after how I treated you. A lot of mothers would have said, you made your bed, now lie in it. But you didn't. You chose peace, but you never chose to stop loving me. I could never stop loving you, I said. Even when you chose him over me, even when you told me not to contact you, I never stopped loving you. I just loved you from a distance until you were ready to let me love you up close again. I'm ready now, Imani said. And Mama, I promise you, I will never make you choose between loving me and watching me destroy myself ever again. I've learned my lesson. I know my worth now, and I will never settle for less than I deserve. That's my girl, I said, hugging her tight. 1 year after Imani came home, we were sitting on my porch on a Sunday afternoon. Imani had moved into her own apartment 6 months earlier, a small but nice place that she could actually afford on her salary. She'd paid off half her debt. She'd reconnected with her old friends. She'd started dating again, this time, a man who treated her with respect and kindness. Mama, I have something to tell you, Imani said. What is it, baby? I asked. I got a promotion at work, Imani said, smiling. They're making me a charge nurse. It comes with a significant raise. Oh, Imani, I'm so proud of you, I said, hugging her. And there's something else, Imani continued. I've been going to a domestic violence survivor support group, and the coordinator asked if I'd be willing to mentor other women who are trying to leave abusive relationships. That's wonderful, I said. Are you going to do it? Yes, Imani said. Because, Mama, I know what it's like to be trapped. I know what it's like to have everyone tell you to leave but not be able to. I know what it's like to feel like you have no choices. And if I can help even one woman get out before it gets as bad as it got for me, then everything I went through will have been worth it. You're going to help so many people, I said. I hope so, Imani said. And Mama, I wanted to say thank you for everything, for refusing to enable my bad choices, for loving me enough to risk losing me, for being there when I finally asked for help. You saved my life. You saved your own life, I said. I just made sure you had a safe place to land when you were ready. Can I ask you one more question? Imani said. Of course, I replied. Do you ever regret not going to my wedding? Imani asked. Do you ever wish you just supported me anyway, even though you knew Rashon was wrong for me? I thought about it carefully. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd gone. Would it have made any difference? Would you have still married him? Would you have left him sooner or stayed longer? But no, I don't regret my choice. Because Imani, if I'd gone to that wedding, I would have been compromising my values and my integrity. I would have been telling you that love means supporting people even when they're making terrible choices. And that's not love. That's enabling. What is love then? Imani asked. Love is telling the truth even when it's hard, I said. Love is holding boundaries even when it costs you. Love is choosing peace over pretending everything is fine. Love is letting people experience the consequences of their choices so they can learn and grow. That's real love, and that's what I chose for you. You chose peace over me, Imani said. No, I corrected gently. I chose peace for you. There's a difference. I couldn't give you peace while you were with Rashon. You had to find that peace yourself. But I could choose to maintain my own peace and not participate in something that was destroying you. And I could make sure that when you were ready for peace, you had a peaceful place to come home to. And I did, Imani said. Mama, I came home broken and scared and ashamed. And you gave me peace. You gave me a safe place to heal. You gave me unconditional love without judgment. And that's what helped me find myself again. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sunset. Then Imani spoke again. Mama, I want to ask you something. Go ahead, baby, I said. If you could go back in time to that day, when Rashon proposed on your porch, if you could do it all over again, would you do anything differently? Imani asked. I thought about that question. I thought about all the pain of the past 3 years, the months of not hearing from my daughter, the terror of that 2:30 a.m. phone call from the hospital, the agony of knowing my child was suffering and I couldn't protect her. But I also thought about where we were now, about the strong, healed woman sitting beside me, about the relationship we'd rebuilt, stronger than before because it was based on truth and respect rather than enabling and people-pleasing. No, I said finally, I wouldn't change anything, because everything that happened, as painful as it was, led us here, to this porch, to this moment, to this peace we both have now. If I'd handled things differently, we might not have gotten here. You really believe that? Imani asked. I do, I said. Imani, sometimes the hardest thing a mother can do is let her child fail. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to save you, to drag you away from Rashon, to force you to see the truth. But I knew that if I did that, you'd resent me and go right back to him. So instead, I stepped back and waited for you to save yourself. And I did, Imani said. Yes, you did, I agreed. And that's so much more powerful than if I'd saved you, because now you know you're strong enough to save yourself. You know you don't need anyone to rescue you. You can rescue yourself. I learned that from you, Imani said. You taught me that choosing peace is sometimes the bravest choice you can make. That loving someone doesn't mean accepting their bad behavior. That you can love someone and still hold them accountable. Those are hard lessons, I said. But necessary ones, Imani replied. As the sun set and the sky turned orange and pink, I looked at my daughter and felt overwhelming gratitude. Gratitude that she was alive. Gratitude that she'd found the strength to leave. Gratitude that we'd found our way back to each other. My daughter had chosen a man over me, and I'd chosen peace over watching her destroy herself. It had been the hardest choice I'd ever made, but looking at her now, strong, healthy, whole, I knew it had been the right choice. Because sometimes, the greatest act of love is letting go, and the greatest act of courage is choosing peace, even when it costs you everything. And in the end, peace had brought us both home. This story teaches us. Sparkles sometimes loving someone means letting them fail. Sparkles you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. Sparkles enabling bad choices isn't love, it's harm. Sparkles real love tells the truth even when it's painful. Sparkles choosing peace doesn't mean giving up on someone. Sparkles boundaries are an act of love, not abandonment. Sparkles abusers isolate victims from everyone who might help. Sparkles you can forgive someone and still protect yourself. If this story moved you, subscribe for more powerful stories. Smash that like button. Turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Did Celestine do the right thing refusing to attend the wedding? Have you ever had to choose peace over supporting someone's bad choice? Where are you watching from? United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Ghana, South Africa, Trinidad, Australia, Barbados. Remember, you can love someone deeply and still refuse to support their self-destruction. Enabling isn't love, it's harm. Sometimes the hardest choice is the right choice. Real love tells the truth even when it costs you. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. Choosing peace is an act of courage. Boundaries protect everyone, not just you. Abusive relationships isolate victims from support. You can forgive without forgetting. Healing takes time but is always possible. The strongest act of love is sometimes letting go. Your peace matters too. You're not responsible for other people's choices. Supporting someone's mistakes isn't loving them. Real transformation comes from within. Never compromise your values to keep someone in your life. God makes a way when there seems to be no way. Thank you for following Celestine and Imani's journey from separation to healing.